Welcome to Megapath Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today we have a small little discussion video off of the back of the release of the new issue of The Walking Dead 191. Now, this isn't a spoiler, however, we will spoil a huge death in issue 191. So if you haven't read issue 191, go ahead and read that before continuing on. With that said, let's dive straight into this. In my issue 191 review, I covered some of the callbacks and symbolism, the different images, and why this is almost definitely Rick's fatal issue, 191. 192 should see the last time we have a living version of Rick Grimes in the issue, in the series. And I think now looking back, the cover actually reflects that. What do we see on issue 191? We see two small groups that were about to fight. However, Rick is in the middle holding up his hand, which is an exact scene from the comic where he held up his hand, said, "This world has scarred us mentally and physically. We carry those scars, yada, yada, yada." However, on the cover, now looking back, his image is faded out, meaning Rick Grimes, from this point on, is fading out of the story. I know there's a lot of people saying, come on guys, Rick isn't dead. Carl got shot in the eye and Carl got shot in the chest or something like that. I forget how they made Carl look getting blasted, but you have to understand with certain images, it is a comic, so they're going to visually exaggerate some things. Getting directly blasted in the chest, but also having a clear conclusion to Rick's story arc. There's simply no way Rick survives. Rick is dead. The cover has him faded. He's fading out of the story. His story's come to a conclusion. His arc fully completed. It came full circle with all those callbacks. Rick is dead. However, this is a zombie comic. This is a story of someone's continuing journey surviving in this new world. What better way to represent that than to see the main character as a walker? That might be one of the reasons why Kirkman had Sebastian shoot Rick in the chest and not the head. What if in the next issue we see Carl Grimes waking up, comes outside, Commonwealth is in a panic, people are running around crying, and he starts walking towards this silhouette of a walker in the middle of the street. And as it gets closer, maybe Michonne steps outside next to Carl, or maybe even other people, the survivors that we know, come outside, and the walker's getting closer, walking up the street at them. Obviously, Carl would recognize this walker only has one hand. And then the realization starts to hit him and he's like, oh no, God, no. You know what I'm saying? And then the walker gets to where it's not silhouetted in the art style, in the showcase, and they do a reveal. They can do certain panels to build that up, but it would be essentially the image of Rick Grimes, this leader, the main character that we have been following this entire time, coming down the city that he saved, the street that belonged to citizens he pulled together from a speech that closed off his arc, and we get our walker version of Rick Grimes. And then as Rick gets closer, now just a few feet away, it would be Carl who decides and makes the decision to put his father down. He's on the cover of issue 192 with a gun. It's made to look like the recent Herd came back around, so they got done fighting, but he looks distraught and sad and crushed on the cover. Yet they're using a green sky, which green does represent nature, natural. Maybe Rick in this new world, it's just the natural progress of what happens when you die. You turn into a walker. But also green represents growth. We've watched him grow in this world. From a kid to a man, he got his final lesson from his father before his father walked out of his life for the last time. And now Carl is on his own to live and to learn without advice or mentorship from his father. So then Carl would essentially shoot Walker Rick And again, I think the imagery is the main thing here. Beautifully done with some awesome panels leading up to the reveal to our survivors that it's Rick, and then getting that one epic page, a full page image revealing what the survivors see coming down the street at them. It's Walker Rick. That original piece of art would sell. That panel would be iconic. There could be PVC statues made of that panel. There could be resin statues, big premium resin statues. There could be figures made of that. There could be deluxe figures made out of that. There could be so much both in the story and business minded that you can pull from that. And then, like I said, it would be Carl who pulls out his little pistol and he puts his father down. Sometimes the comic has done callbacks to the show, where something happened in the show, and then the reverse or something similar happened in the comic, but way later or at a very different point in time. So this could call back to two things from the show. Have Carl shoot Rick, and it would mirror the way Rick shot Sophia in the TV show. Again, just in the look and the style, maybe the angle, how he holds out his gun. This is just a little bonus extra. It doesn't have to, but the main one, and the one that could call back to the show on a stronger level, would be what Carl did to Shane. Rick kills human Shane, and then when Walker Shane comes back, it's Carl that puts him down. Like I said, the show and the comic have traded off, and they've done things differently, and the comic has done some stuff that seems to call back, or that is similar, just in a reverse, or maybe in a different time, or maybe with different characters, but it kind of calls back in different ways to the show and how those characters have gone out. Andrea, just off the top of my head, was almost identical in the show. Different circumstances, but in the show, she was tied up by the governor, ended up getting bit by Milton, and then in the comic, she was saving Eugene and ended up getting bit. And the wounds were in close proximity between the two. Anyway, I've been getting a lot of questions about what would come next in issue 192, and that's my official prediction. I think the cover of 191 with Rick fading out, I think the callbacks within the issue between the different speeches and the different imagery and the placement of the wound and how it was set up, I think that fully confirms that Rick is dead and Kirkman is sticking to that choice. 192 would be a Walker Rick, him fading out of the story, transitioning into Carl as the last remaining Grimes character, but also opening it up to an ensemble cast. It's not just focused on Carl, and Carl doesn't have to be the leader. I think it'd be interesting to see other characters in leadership roles, but we check in on Carl quite frequently. And again, he doesn't have to be the leader. He's still a kid yet. He's going to grow yet. Within the world, he's learned a lot, but he still has a lot more to learn. So issue 191 was the last we'll see of living Rick. We might see him in a couple panels of issue 192, but I think 192 will be the Walker Rick, Carl putting his father down. And then from that moment on, I think we will take a break, and then we'll follow Negan in issue 193. And then from issue 193, 94, 95, 96, 97, and 98, that's 6 issues. That's a full story arc. It's very possible we might even follow Negan for a majority of that story arc. It doesn't make sense we would follow him just for an issue and then bounce back. We could even bounce back to the other different communities, and again in a slow transition. I fully believe that's going to lead us up to issue 200, issue 199, and then issue 200 being the farewell issue for Rick Grimes, and then maybe whatever happens in 199 and issue 200, that's not only the big farewell, but it's also the catalyst to what pushes or jumps this story into a whole new direction in the world of The Walking Dead without Rick Grimes. Alright, for those interested, we are finishing up our first week of the Days Gone event with another long live stream tonight. Days Gone is a post-apocalyptic video game that's nowhere near as buggy and broken as the early reviews made it seem, and it is quickly rising to the top of my second favorite current generation video game of all time, The Last of Us being number one. So come on by and hang out with us for a little bit tonight if you're interested. Put your thoughts and opinions in that comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn.